For centuries, we've stared up at the stars, totally driven to explore the vast unknown of space. But what if one of the most alien, most mysterious environments we could ever hope to find isn't out there at all? What if it's right here, just a few miles beneath our own feet?
It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer leads us down a rabbit hole of Cold War rivalry, absolutely shocking scientific discoveries, and an engineering challenge so extreme it pushed our technology to its absolute breaking point. There it is, over 12,000 meters straight down. That is deeper than Mount Everest is tall. But honestly, what's truly fascinating isn't just how deep they managed to go. It's why they were forced to stop. And the reason for that would completely rewrite our understanding of the planet itself. So in this explainer, we're going to journey deep into the Earth's crust to uncover the ambitious mission behind the Kola Superdeep Borehole. We'll look at the incredible discoveries they made, the insane challenge that finally stopped them in their tracks, the bizarre myths that bubbled up from the depths, and finally, what this amazing endeavor really taught us about our home. Okay, so our story kicks off in 1970, way up on the remote Kola Peninsula in Arctic Russia. Now, at the height of the Cold War, everybody was obsessed with the space race. But there was another, much quieter race going on, a race not to the stars, but to the very center of the Earth. This was the Soviet Union's incredibly ambitious project to drill deeper into our planet's crust than anyone had ever gone before. And let me tell you, reaching this record-breaking depth was a monumental effort. This was not a quick job. It took nearly 2 decades of relentless, grinding work, overcoming one technical nightmare after another, just to slowly push their way down, meter by painstaking meter, into that ancient rock. Now, let's clear something up real quick, because this gets confusing. You hear about the Mariana Trench all the time, right? That's the deepest natural spot on the planet's surface. But the Kola Superdeep Borehole, that is the deepest artificial point. No one has ever drilled farther into the Earth's crust. It's just a staggering feat of engineering. So you gotta ask, why? Why go to all this trouble? Why spend decades drilling a single hole in the middle of nowhere? Well, the goal was to basically peer back in time, to read the geological history of our planet written right there in the layers of rock. The scientists had a whole checklist of things they were looking for. They wanted to figure out what the deep crust was really made of, find the boundary where the crust meets the mantle, measure the insane temperatures down there, and hunt for clues about how our planet was even formed. They were looking for everything from valuable minerals to the origins of life itself, all locked away deep underground. And what they found, well, it completely shattered their expectations. The Earth's crust was not the nice, predictable, solid layer they thought it was. Turns out, it was a whole lot stranger, and it held secrets that would fundamentally change geology textbooks forever. Okay, so the first major surprise was the rock itself. All their data suggested they'd be drilling through solid, bone-dry granite. But instead, at these incredible depths, they found the rock was all fractured and porous, and completely saturated with water. Water! Nobody thought that was even possible. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about some giant underground river or lake. This was something weirder. This was water that had been chemically locked inside the crystal structure of the rock for billions of years. The immense pressure deep in the earth was literally squeezing water molecules out of solid stone. And then it got even crazier. They found life, or, well, the ghosts of ancient life. More than 6 kilometers down, they found the perfectly preserved microfossils of 24 different species of ancient plankton. These tiny little things were over 2 billion years old, and they were encased in organic compounds that somehow, miraculously, survived the crushing heat and pressure. But of all the incredible surprises, the one that would ultimately seal the project's fate was the heat. The deeper they drilled, the hotter it got. Way, way hotter than any of their scientific models had ever predicted. Get this, at the very bottom of the hole, the temperature hit a staggering 180 degrees Celsius. That's 356 degrees Fahrenheit. It was nearly double what the scientists had calculated. The Earth's interior was a much more violent, much more fiery place than they had ever imagined. And this extreme, totally unexpected heat created a problem they just couldn't solve. The rock at that depth started behaving less like a solid and more like a thick, superheated plastic. And the technology they had back then, it simply couldn't handle it. You see, it was this cascade of failures. The intense heat started to warp the long metal drill string. The special drilling mud, which they needed to lubricate the drill bit, was practically boiling. The equipment was just being pushed so far beyond what it was designed for that it became physically impossible to keep going. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, geopolitics delivered the final blow. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, and just like that, the project's funding evaporated. By 1992, with the technical problems being too much and the money gone, drilling was officially stopped for good. The site just kind of sat there for a few more years, but by 2008, it was totally abandoned, and the deepest hole on Earth was welded shut forever.
But the story doesn't just end there. Long after the scientists had packed up and the machinery rusted over, the Kola Superdeep Borehole took on a strange new life online. It became the source of one of the internet's most famous and chilling urban legends. The story, which went viral back in the late 90s, claimed that the scientists had lowered a special microphone into the hole and had recorded the actual sounds of damned souls screaming in hell. I mean, what a terrifying story, right? It was perfectly designed to prey on our deepest fears of what might lie beneath us. Of course, the whole story was a complete fabrication, a total hoax. But the fact that it got so popular tells you something, doesn't it? It shows just how fascinated and terrified we are of the deep, dark, unknown interior of our own planet. The hole was real, and that made the myth feel just plausible enough to be scary. So, if we push all the creepy myths aside, what's the real legacy here? What did humanity actually learn from digging the deepest hole in the world? Well, the project completely turned our geological models upside down. It proved the Earth's temperature increases way faster than we thought. It showed us that the crust isn't solid and dry, but fractured and full of water. And maybe most importantly, it taught us a pretty humbling lesson. Our technology just wasn't ready to conquer the deep Earth. So in the end, no, they never reached their ultimate goal of getting to the Earth's mantle. But, in failing to do that, they actually succeeded in a much more profound way. They gave us our first ever direct physical look at the deep continental crust, opening a window into the geological history of our world that we never had before. The Kola Superdeep Borehole is just a stark reminder of a simple, pretty wild truth. We know more about outer space than we do about what's right under our own feet. The world below us remains one of the last true frontiers, a completely alien world full of secrets just waiting to be discovered.